Good morning. This is my honors integrated lesson for section 22.1. It's Tuesday, April 21st. I hope everyone is doing okay out there. So let's go ahead and go over our goals today. Our first goal is we're going to argue that the three angles of a triangle add to 180 degrees. Our second goal is to determine what the angles of an n-sided shape add to. And our last goal is we're going to argue the exterior angle theorem. So this lesson's actually kind of an easy lesson, I think, and we should be able to get through it pretty quick. I'm just going to outline the arguments for this, and hopefully the concepts make sense, and then you can see how these three concepts relate to your homework questions. And before I also get started saying a lot, I don't know how to get the test results from the test we took before spring break. You gotta get in contact with Mr. Nguyen and find out how you did. I would like to spend a day going over that quiz just to give you feedback. I don't know how I'm going to grade it again. I have to grade it in such a fair way. And finally, let's just talk about grades. Make sure you're turning in everything so I can at least give you a credit for this semester. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into our first goal. And our first goal says the three angles of a triangle add to 180 degrees. Now, if you notice, I have a picture of parallel lines, which apparently has nothing to do with a triangle, but it actually does. And the angles that I've drawn in my, or highlighted in my parallel lines cut by a transversal are a pair of corresponding angles. And if you guys remember that if the lines are parallel, it makes these angles come out to be equal. All right, and so this argument, we're actually going to make some parallel, or make a pair of parallel lines. So I have a triangle here. It could be any triangle. It could be obtuse, acute, right? It could be any triangle we want. And what I'm going to do, and you can actually do this with a compass and ruler, is you can actually make a line through this point that's parallel to this side of the triangle. So I'm just, for the sake of time, I'm just going to draw a line through this point. And I'm going to say that this line that I drew is parallel to this side of the triangle. And if you notice, I created what I drew up here. And so I can very simply say that angle 1 is the same as angle 2 because these are corresponding angles of parallel lines. Now, I also have another set of corresponding angles. So if I talk about this angle 3 and this angle 4, I know that these angles themselves must also be congruent. And notice that I have an angle that I haven't named. I'll call that angle 5. And I know that angle 2, 5, and 4 must make a straight line, so angles 2, 5, and 4 must add up to 180 degrees. So I'll just write that real quick. The measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 4. And again, all three of these angles make a straight line, so we're going to say they add up to 180 degrees. Now, angle 2 is the same as angle 1. So I'm going to replace angle 2 with angle 1. Angle 5 is in the triangle just like angle 1, so I'm not going to change angle 5. I'm going to leave that as angle 5. And that was a terrible 5 I wrote. Sorry. And angle 4 is the same as angle 3, so I'm going to replace angle 4 with the measure of angle 3. And what I've just argued is I've just argued that the three angles, angle 1, angle 3, angle 5, or angle 1, angle 5, and angle 3, the three angles of any triangle add up to 180 degrees. Alright, so every time we see a triangle, we know for sure that they add up to 180 degrees. If we were in class, the lesson would have started out with me giving out some paper and asking you guys with a ruler to draw the biggest triangle you can and cut it out. And I would make fun of some of your triangles and say, oh, that's a terrible triangle, and have you, draw a better one and have you cut them out. And I would try and get you guys excited about your triangles, and someone would say that they had the best triangle, and I'd walk up and grab their triangle, and I'd rip off the angles of the triangle in front of everybody, and I would enjoy it, and you would get upset. And it's just funny to me because that's all that matters. But what I would then do with the 3 angles I ripped off is I would show you that you can actually lay them in such a way that they add up and they make a straight line. So if you look at the beginning of 22.1, you kind of see the book's version of that. But I really enjoy ripping apart something that you guys made. It's very enjoyable to me. Anyways, let's get back to the lesson. So the next goal is to determine what the angles of an n-sided shape add up to. Alright, so I'm here on my second goal, and I have a 4-sided shape, which doesn't seem to be like a triangle. However, if we look at this 4-sided shape, I can connect opposite vertices and then have 2 triangles. Well, I know that this angle and this angle and this angle add up to 180, and this angle and this angle and this angle add up to 180. So that means that I have 2 triangles that add up to 360 degrees. So I know that a 4-sided shape, the angles must add up to 360 degrees, right? So 4-sided, which gives us 2 triangles. And because we have 2 triangles, that means that they add up to 360 degrees. Okay, now let's look at this 5-sided shape. So I could start anywhere. I could have started here and gone there, but I can start anywhere. Just to keep myself out of the way of the drawing, I'm going to start here and I'm going to connect to there. And I'm going to go back and connect to here. Now notice in this 5-sided shape, I was able to make 1, 2, 3 triangles. And again, I know that these 3 angles add up to 180. I know that these 3 angles add up to 180. And I know that these 3 angles add up to 180. So my 5-sided shape I guess my 5s and s's do look alike. My 5-sided makes 3 triangles. And the 3 triangles, 3 times 180, that multiplies to 540 degrees. And if I was to make a 6-sided shape, you'd see that I'd make 4 triangles. If I had a 7-sided shape, you'd see I'd have 5 triangles. The number of triangles is always less than 2 less than the number of sides. And we would actually use something called induction to argue this, but we don't have really the... I don't have the, I think, the right opportunity to argue that. So, but anyways, a very simple formula falls out of this, where you can say that it becomes n minus 2 times 180 degrees is equal to the sum of the angles of the shape. Now, n is how many sides? All right, and what this formula is actually, what this formula allows us is it allows us to have 2 different starting points for this problem. I can start off with a problem with a certain number of shapes and ask you how many, what do the angles add up to, and you can work that out. Or I can tell you what the angles add up to, and then ask you to determine how many sides the shape must have. Now, there might be a word in this problem, equal angular. That means all the angles are the same, so you have to average it. If you see the word regular, that also means equal angular. So again, all the angles are going to be the same. So you average, right? So let's see here. So I think I can check off idea 2. And let's talk about idea 3. Argue the exterior angle theorem. All right. So I am kind of going through this a little quick, and I'm watering it down. I should be, we're in the classroom setting. I would be taking a little bit more time to make these arguments. But I'm trying to cover them as simply as possible. And again, your homework is going to be about these three ideas. And so here's my last idea. Let me erase some of this so I have a little bit more space over here. Alright, so the third idea is about a triangle, but then we have this, if we extend one of the sides and we do that, we create what we call an exterior angle. And when I want to point something out about this exterior angle. It reminds me about linear pairs. And if you remember linear pairs, that we can very quickly write an equation about these two angles because they make a straight line, so we know that the two angles themselves must add up to 180 degrees. Let me make sure that's whole thing's in the camera, and it is. Okay, good job. Now, remember that this triangle, the very first thing we did was we determined what the three angles must add up to. So we know that that the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 is also equal to 180 degrees. And what we can do is we've now established a transitive property. If two things are equal to the same thing, then these two things themselves must be equal. So I get another equation which says the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2. That equals the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 plus the measure, I'm trying to stay on here, plus the measure of angle 4. I'm really running out of room in this room. So again, this is equal to 180 as well as this. So since both of these are equal to the same thing, these things themselves must be equal. Now notice both sides of the equation have the measure of angle 2. I can subtract that out. And I'm left with the following equation. Measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. Okay, so the measure of angle 1 is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles of a triangle. So these three ideas are what the homework's about. Somehow, some way, this is what we need to answer the questions. Please try your best on this, and make sure we take the attendance quiz. If you do have any questions on the lesson or on the assignment, please ask me through either the Remind app or or my email or the email. And the problem with asking me questions in Google Class is I don't grade this homework assignment till Friday, and I don't get notifications for comments on my Google Class dashboard. So the only time that I see these questions are when I'm grading the assignment. So if you ask me in Google Class, I don't get back to you until I grade it. If you ask me on a reminder through my email, I get the notification today, and I can answer you today. So again, I hope you guys are doing all right out there. Let's keep doing the best we can, and we only got a couple more weeks left, and we're in the summer, and let's just keep doing the good work and have a good day, everybody. I'll post the next lesson on Thursday, so have a good day.